Hi, I'm Stuart,
I am Ava.
and this is Chestnut Hill. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about our property here. It's going to be our future retirement home that we're going to develop over the next few years, and hopefully you'll stick around for the journey. It's the middle of February 2022. It's a brisk 21 degrees Fahrenheit, which is around -6 Celsius for those in the rest of the world. But later, let's have a look around and show some of the work that we have ahead of us this year. So this is a 3-acre parcel of raw land in the southern tier of New York State. We bought this property a couple of years ago. We spent the last year clearing it, the weeds. It used to be a cow pasture farmland, and the time has passed, so it was not heavily treed, but it had a lot of overgrown scrub trees and weeds. So we put a lot of work in. One of the challenges that we faced during the year last year was we discovered that running down the middle of the hill in the property, it was fairly wet with spring runoff and springs feeding out from down the mountain. The water would come down through culverts and into this pond, and then out the pond and down the property. So we hired a contractor last year to dig us a swale down there, which we'll be able to see better in the spring, and to clean up some of the, make the water flow more positive on it. If you look back at some of our older videos that are on the channel, which are mostly just raw flyover videos, you'll see that there used to be a garden over in that section, which has now been leveled and turned into a driveway. So let's take a walk. Let's go have a look at some of the activities that we have planned for the year. The first is what we call the Park District, which is north of this big willow tree, or uphill from this big willow tree. And it's an area that we're going to develop and work hard to make a nice little shady seating area. So let's walk on over there. All right, so up on the top of the property here is an old milk shed. This is where in the dairy farm they used to put the containers of milk out into this shed for the larger dairy truck to come pick it up. This here is where there's a culvert which feeds water down. Even in this cold weather, you can see that there's a fair flow of water running down there, which runs down, feeds the pond, and runs down the hill across the center of the property into some ponds below. We do have a fair bit of wildlife on this property, mainly deer, but we do also have black bear in the area, as well as coyotes, foxes, and other associated wildlife. The snow is a little crispy and a little crossy as we walk, so we pardon on the noise there. So that's where we were standing a minute ago, over on this little overlook. There used to be a large bank barn or a hill barn that was on there. Apparently it was struck by lightning and burnt down about 20 years ago, and then into the pond. So what we're doing now is we're standing here in the park. So this gets a lot of shade. This gets a lot of shade. The direction that we're headed or facing right now is a southern facing exposure. These mountains are the Appalachian Mountains, the northern part of the Appalachian Mountain Range. We like the property because we clearly have a site between the two neighboring houses, and that's where our future house will face, is that direction. Over on the other side of the property is where we're going to put it, and we won't have any developer or anything to look at, any future housing to look at. So as our progresses here, our intention is to clean up once again some of this shrub trees. This is a mixture of autumn olives and rose thorns, and clearly a lot of weeds that are growing up. We're going to leave some of these in, get them cleaned up so we can mow more easily around and develop that down. Down the hill here, we do intend in the future on this slope. So this is a south-facing slope. We do intend on along this section of the property between here and the evergreen trees over there to put in a series of fruit trees, some apple trees, pear trees, things like that. So we'll probably get those planted next year. But we do have an apple tree. It's a Granny Smith apple tree that already exists on the property. It does produce a lot of apples. Unfortunately, they are subject to powdery mildew and are relatively small in size. But that's because this tree, where they grow on, has been totally neglected for a minimum of 15 years, if not longer. So this will be one of our early projects, is to deal with that apple tree, to try to get it pruned up a little bit to hopefully coax it over the next couple of years to produce more apples. If nothing else, it'll be a good experience. So we'll do that together, and we'll look at that over the upcoming year. We'll see how that goes. This lower part of the pond, this little dam portion of it, our intention is to clear down these weeds and get some plants in here. We'll probably start with some irises to make this area look really nice. But really, we want to make this area a nice park. Maybe put a bench in here, some flowers, you know, some other trees, shrubberies like that, to make this a nice seating area. We will be planting we get a lot of shrubs from the state every year in the last 2 years. So we're going to plant a bunch up along the roadway there, and some evergreens up there as well. So the idea will be to try to build that up to start preventing a little, or creating a little bit of a sight line block. And then we'll take down a bunch of these autumn olives and these rose thorn trees. These ones are really nasty to try to mow around. They always rip skin, and they're always an exciting thing. So what do you think, Ava? Sound like a good plan for the year?
It's like a good plan.
All right. Okay, it's kind of brisk out here. We'll take a walk. We'll turn the camera off, and we'll jump over to the other side of the property, and we'll show you what will be our future front yard and building site. So stay tuned. Okay, so now we're over on the other side of what we call the overlook. This is on the other half of the property. The road's right behind us. Once again, still looking south. So the area immediately in front of us will become our front yard. Quite often we'll set up a tent here when we spend the weekend. And then over on the other side here is where the driveway was, on the other side of these aspen trees. There was a garden in there. It was a 40 by 40 foot fenced in garden. This property had sat vacant. Well, it's never been developed, but nobody had been on here for 14 years. The prior owners had moved away and could no longer drive here from Maine to visit the property. And so we bought it, and the garden had been neglected for 14 years and overgrown. So this area down here is the side that we'll have the house on. Our intention on the overlook area there is where it comes down, is to build a little bit of a terraced garden, put some plants in there, and try to get it so that you know, it fits into the landscape nicely.